Revealed Texas gunman staked out massacre mall to monitor peak times 3 weeks before killing 8 and posted details on Russian social media alongside photos of Nazis, guns, and ammunition. You see, here's where we get into the Psyop.
Tim Poole, along with other right-wing media figures, seem to have all these crazy theories about one of the latest gunmen who carried out a mass shooting, this time in Texas. So this was the Texas mass shooting that happened last weekend. And we have learned a lot about the shooter over the last few days. Authorities have confirmed that he did, in fact, espouse white supremacist and Nazi views, and also hinted at his plans to carry out a mass shooting ahead of time. Now, right-wingers, though, don't like the fact that he's been associated with the right wing, and so Tim Poole and Elon Musk have apparently spread the week, spreading some disinformation that we should get into, okay? And let me just be clear. The one thing that connects all the mass shootings in the country, regardless of what motivated the shooting, is the easy access to guns. So I guess the right wing is worried that this makes them look bad, but I would venture to say that what actually makes them look bad is their unwillingness to ever support even the most mild gun reform policy. But let's get back, or both, exactly. So let's get back to the story at hand. Now, before we get to their conspiracy theories and lies, here's a more accurate description of the Texas gunman.
Troubling details emerging about 33-year-old Mauricio Garcia. One patch on Garcia's vest used by far-right extremist groups, leading investigators to a disturbing online history on a Russian social networking site, where Garcia shared pictures of the Allen Premium outlets where the attack took place. Then on April 22nd, this photo, appearing to show the 33-year-old shirtless with multiple Nazi-inspired tattoos just 2 weeks before the shooting.
Gee, I wonder if we can confirm what the ideological leanings of this gunman happen to be. Anyway, John, before I go on, I'm curious what you have to say so far.
Yeah, look, the right is going to be defensive, obviously. It's a mass shooting. We all get worked up when a mass shooting happens. Some of us get worked up because we hate the senseless loss of life and don't want to see more of it. Others get worked up because they want to protect their guns. He's getting particularly defensive because, of course, this guy apparently liked his content or posted about him. I don't even know how extensive it was. It's not like they've shown that he was like a regular viewer or anything like that, but his name came up, so he's gonna be defensive about it. And there are probably a lot of people out there that think, well, okay, so you have Tim Poole who's gonna unveil how this is a psyop, and they might think, well, I wanna get involved in this sort of stuff, but I'm not a Sherlock Holmes level detective like Tim Poole. How do I figure out what's a psyop or not? And it's actually pretty simple. If a shooter does their thing and there's no details about their politics, but they're clearly obsessed with guns, then we can't speculate about their politics, don't say anything. If there's a little bit of evidence that they're a right winger, then that's not conclusive, you really shouldn't bring up at all. If there's a lot of evidence, well, then the CIA did a psyop. It's really as simple as that. It's a perfect 3-tier plan for figuring out what was behind a shooting.
And mind you, as we engage in this ridiculous discourse about the shooter, it takes away, I believe it takes away from the conversation that actually needs to be had in regard to what can we do to either mitigate mass shootings in this country or prevent mass shootings in this country. But like, you're right, I think that Tim Poole is defensive right now because, you know, there's some reporting indicating that the gunman was a fan of Tim Poole. I don't care, right? Like, we don't need to immediately go to politicizing the situation in that way. I don't know. Anyway, let's also go to some more detail about the shooter before we get to Elon Musk as well, because while it was clear that he opened fire and started shooting at people at random, like he didn't just target, you know, people of color or whatever, he was just shooting people randomly. Investigators or investigations into his social media postings did show that he had ties to right-wing extremism. So for instance, let's go to the Texas Department of Public Safety Regional Director Hank Sibley confirming this during a press conference.
We do know that he had neo-Nazi ideation. He had patches, he had tattoos, even his signature, verified that. That's one thing we do know.
Wow, that sheriff must be super woke. He must be a Bernie supporter, must be a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, except he's not.
Hippie ass cowboy.
Yeah. So he allegedly praised Chaya Raichik of Libs of TikTok. So just let that sink in. That guy that you just heard
and
from.
Nick Fuentes.
He's not some left winger.
Oh, no, that guy didn't praise them.
Oh,
the
okay.
shooter praised
the
Tim Poole,
shooter.
Libs
Got
of
it.
TikTok, and Nick Fuentes.
Okay, but either way, the guy you just heard from, not a leftist. Not someone who's like on the warpath against Tim Poole. I'm just saying. Now, yes, you're right. Garcia praised, Libs of TikTok and Tim Poole. Other posts praised Nazis and the Chilean dictator Pinochet. Okay, he directly addressed his ethnic background in one meme he posted, which mentioned Latino children and the phrase "become white supremacists." Okay, it's just clear who he is. Like, let's move on, right?
It's becoming too clear, though. It's making me think that the FBI did it. There's
so
too much evidence.
There's too much evidence, okay? According to the US Defense Department, the suspect entered the Army in June of 2008 and was terminated 3 months later without completing initial entry training because of physical or mental conditions. So there was that. The shooter had also legally bought 8 weapons, including the AR-15 that he used in the mass shooting. He also had 3 firearms that were found in his possession, while another 5 were in his car. Okay, so let's get back to the conspiracy theories. So we have all these facts about this guy. And since right-wingers are uncomfortable with who this guy really was and what his political ideology was, they started questioning the reporting and questioning his real ideology, okay? To get to Elon, we first have to start with right-wing weirdo Miles Chong, who posted this tweet questioning damning information about the shooter. So he writes, the alleged shooter's alleged profile claims that he was inspired by Libs of TikTok. Between this and the Tim Poole references, this thing is suspect. By the way, did anyone actually allege that the shooter was inspired by Libs of TikTok?
I don't know.
No one alleged that. But anyway, between this and the Tim Poole references, this thing is suspect. Where is his Twitter account? Why was he using a Russian social media site to write what was essentially a diary to 0 followers?
I love the logic behind every sentence of that.
So now the right wing's blaming Russia?
Yeah, no. They're saying, yeah, no, we get it. Maybe you'll have a Russian blog about how you're gonna kill people, but like, you don't have any fans? Come on, are we really gonna trust you if you didn't have a lot of premium subscribers?
You don't even have a Twitter account?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, well also, between Libs of TikTok and Tim Poole, this thing is suspect. That is literally the thought process. Oh, he likes 2 of us. I'm suspicious. He's not laying out why that should be suspicious to anyone who's not a right-wing grifter. He's just stating that it is because it references 2 right-wing grifters.
So a woman with the Twitter handle Redheaded Libertarian quote tweeted it and said this, it's a psyop and it's not even good. And that's where Elon Musk comes in and says this gets weirder by the moment. Does it really?
Does it get weirder?
Does it get weirder by the moment?
Or does it get very, very understandable and sort of the experience we've had with many killers in the past? It seems like a crazy person who believed right-wing BS, loved guns, and decided to kill people after posting about it online. Now, I know that sounds out there. You're probably thinking, did ChatGPT just come up with that? Because no human mind could have conceived of such a bizarre plot. But no, it reminds me of a few guys over the past few years, actually.
Like who?
Other mass shooters that are very similar to this guy that he probably patterned himself after.
Maybe they're getting defensive because of that pattern.
Probably, or the fact that they were referenced. And again, Chaya Raichik isn't responsible for this. Tim Poole is not responsible for this. I mean, they do now, again, are reminded that these are people who like them. And when they demonize people, when they casually imply that violence might be fun and justified in politics, they know who they're appealing to and they can go forward with that knowledge and do what they're gonna do. And then convince themselves that they're still good members of their faith or whatever.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean they're individually responsible.
I agree, yeah, I agree with your take 100%. Like, I do think that as public figures who tend to have massive audiences or a huge number of followers, maybe be a little considerate in regard to the type of rhetoric you engage in, like calling for civil war and stuff like that. Not a good idea when we're in a country that's full of, honestly, undiagnosed and untreated mentally ill people.
Which they say.
Right, which
they talk
say,
about that constantly.
Right. And who have easy access to weapons of death, like weapons that cause death, mass death in many cases. Like, that's all I'm saying. But to place blame on Tim Poole or Chaya Raichik, regardless of what you think about them, for this shooting is ridiculous. And I think that's why Tim Poole is defensive. So let's get back to that. Let's get back to Tim Poole. So Tim Poole was cited multiple times in the shooter's online social media posts. And so Tim Poole chimed in to agree that this is a psyop. Okay, anyway, let's watch.
You see, here's where we get into the psyop. No one knows if this Russian social media profile it actually belongs to this guy. I mean, I gotta be honest, I think it's funny and I really just don't care. I think we've won so much ground in the culture war that it is completely meaningless that they would even do it assuming it was a psyop. It means nothing to me. It's just funny.
I think he's being honest. I think he is in the wake of this terrible mass killing and it means nothing to him. None of this means anything. He has a gun behind him in his shot. He knows who he's trying to appeal to. He knows who he's desperately trying to convince that he's an alpha male or whatever. He knows all this. Again, not individually responsible, but responsible for what you do, responsible for what you say, and the people you appeal to.
I don't care at all who this mass shooter liked to watch and support during his free time. I just don't care. I don't care if it's Tim Poole. I don't care if he was loving Chaya Raichik's content. What I care about is that this is a guy who had easy access to weapons and carried out a horrendous, terrible, tragic mass shooting that claimed the lives of innocent individuals while they were out shopping on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And what I care about is that this keeps happening again and again and again. But making this about you because you want to get super defensive over what the investigation is finding, I think is just so ridiculous. And minimizing it by trying to pretend as if this is nothing more than a psyop is also pretty gross. But we're not done yet. So he thinks it's a psyop, but he also points that shootings like this happen because of multiculturalism.
We don't want these things to happen. We want these things to stop. We need to figure out what the issue is in our society, in our culture. And I'll put it simply, I think it's multiculturalism. And not the idea that people of all different types are holding hands on the rainbow. It's that you have different communities stacked on top of each other and next to each other with wildly different views, and they don't like each other. And then people who are crazy will do crazy things.
Wow. So we just experienced another mass shooting in the country by a guy who had a Nazi, like a swastika tattooed on his body. And your takeaway from this whole incident, this whole situation is, I think mass shootings happen because of multiculturalism. That's the real problem. The country's too diverse. So what do you intend to do about that, Tim Poole? What's your solution?
I think I know what his solution is specifically to that.
Man, he freaking fell off big time. He went from being I know we've said this before, but this is what money does to people, man. He went from being an Occupy Wall Street reporter who complained about police brutality because he was brutalized by the cops, to now being the golden boy for anti-multiculturalism garbage.
Yeah, the same as all of the others. He is exactly the same as all of the others. If it makes you feel better in trying to understand the arc, and bear in mind, I don't follow his career now. I didn't follow it then. He probably didn't really believe it back then.
No, probably
He probably was chasing money and fame the same way he is now. He just thought he could get it from the left then, and now he thinks he can get it from the right. And he's onto something because there's way more money on the right. His solution, by the way, to the multiculturalism, he's right to point out that there's a lot of people who are really angry about race because of people like him that are trying to make them angry about issues of race and hate everyone else.
Who's amping them up?
Yeah. Oh, I wonder why some people hate trans people. I wonder why. I wonder what sort of content they might be watching. I wonder.
And it is interesting how when we experienced a mass shooting carried out by a transgender individual, They were ready to take the guns away from specifically transgender people in America, right? They were ready and willing to believe the reporting on that, on the identity of that shooter. But once
seems like a psyop to me.
Seems like a psyop. Can you imagine if we did that? If we came on the show and said, no, we think this is a psyop. We think the conservatives in government are making this up, and they might be bribing journalists to make this up. That's what's happening. I mean, we would sound like lunatics because that's what lunatics would think. But they can't see past their own lunacy. It's pretty incredible.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.